I will go through and do a little introduction. And so, with that, official welcome to They Call Her the Obama Twitter Guru, an interview with Kat Murphy Toms. I'm your host and moderator for the webinar, Christina McPhillips, Vice President of Business Development at Carl Bloom Associates. We are a nonprofit fundraising agency that works with PBS and NPR stations, public libraries, health and human service organizations, and so many other nonprofits. And before we get started with Kat, I wanted to go through some brief housekeeping. You are all muted, but we sincerely invite you to ask questions at any time. And we're working on the issue with chat being disabled. And you can throw anything you want in the Q&A. Tell us where you're calling in from in the Q&A. We'd love to know. This session is absolutely being recorded, and we will send the recording out after the interview. And now an introduction to Kat. So, as a field organizer for the 2008 Obama presidential campaign, Kat unknowingly revolutionized digital fundraising before there was such a thing as digital fundraising. And many months ago, before meeting Kat, I had the chance to speak with a colleague of hers who described with great enthusiasm the role that Kat has played in the evolution of digital fundraising as we know it. After sharing Kat's story with me, that same colleague whispered with great joy, "Some call her the Obama Twitter guru." But if you ask Kat, as I have, she prefers to be known as the hype woman for radical generosity. And so, with that, I formally introduce you to Kat Murphy Toms, Director of Digital Strategy for Giving Tuesday. Kat, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to correct you and say it's not just me who revolutionized anything, my friends. I am a humble person. I'm from Chicago. That's how we are. This was a lot of us, right? A lot of us who were on the campaign and a lot of us who were not officially on the campaign, like all of the volunteers and all of those individuals who gave those $5 donations that we will talk about in a little bit. Those are the folks who revolutionized
I
not
love
just
that.
fundraising, but the way we like organize online,
Yeah.
right? And that's going to be a big theme in everything that I talk to you today. I think this is not just about our jobs as fundraisers. This is about how can we build groundswell movements of people who are willing to walk arm in arm with us toward whatever it is that our mission is, right? That's how you're building a movement for your cause. You're not just simply raising funds. I
Oh,
think there's a lot to learn from politics, from mutual aid organizing, from community organizers, from a lot of people, not just me, right?
love
So
it.
thanks. I'm glad to be here.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And as I was thinking about this conversation, I wanted to sort of frame the questions, the interview questions, maybe in a more unique light. And so instead of saying to you, what do you do? Since we all kind of know what you do, given today that you work with Giving Tuesday, and we know what we're going to talk about in a minute, can you tell me, maybe on a personal level, at your core, what is it that motivates you to do the work that you do?
Oh my God, that's a big question. Um, wow. All right. I am incredibly lucky to get to wake up every day, and my whole job is about making other people more generous. Right? I don't know, besides the people on my team, I think we are the only people in the world who get to say that. Like, what is your job? Our job is to transform generosity, transform our world by teaching people how to be more generous with each other, more gentle with each other, more respectful with each other, right?
Mhm.
It's a really
How do
humbling
you feel
thing.
about that? What gets on, you mentioned before we started talking, you said, I grew up in Chicago, and Chicago is, maybe a little kinder.
I mean, we're a community organizing town, right? And we're a city of neighborhoods is like our official tagline. If you've ever been to Chicago, you know that it's divided up into different neighborhoods and they're all very, very distinct. And there's this sense of community
Yeah.
that I am certain exists elsewhere. I know that it exists elsewhere, but here it's critical to our beings. And I don't know if I'm going to explain this quite quite well enough, but it shows up in all of the activism in labor movements and all of the work that is done and
Hmm.
comes out of Chicago and is inspired out of Chicago style community organizing, which is a thing.
Yeah,
Look it up sometime. There's a lot to learn from Saul Alito from Chicago style community organizing.
great. Wonderful. All right. Well, beyond how wonderful Chicago is and motivations for doing the good work that you do, Kat, please take us back. The year is 2008. We're going,
A lifetime ago.
Barack Obama is running for president. Where are you? Who are you? And what's going on in the world?
So it was actually 2007,
Okay.
right? So he had
Yes.
announced in February 2007, but we had started quietly building campaign apparatus that December prior. So like 2006, right? Which is an actual full lifetime ago. I had known Uncle Barry my whole life. And yes, I call him that. My kids call him that. My dad was a community organizer south side of Chicago, which is where I grew up. So Obama would like come to parties in my basement, and like we didn't think this was like a big deal, but people I say this to now are like, God, holy shit. Uh, yeah, it's just this guy who comes to my house. Um, and when I was really young, like we're talking 12,
Yes.
since I was the only one in the neighborhood who knew how to use MS Publisher, right, on like Windows XP or whatever it was
Uh-huh.
on my
Uh-huh.
gateway computer, I kind of got stuck being like 12 years old and designing and printing flyers and like leaflets for Obama's campaign, like state senate campaign, and a bunch of like aldermanic campaigns. My dad was really, really active in political organizing. And so that became like my uh, I guess, start to this whole career,
Yeah.
right? Like because
Yeah.
I was the kid who like thought computers were cool and kind of
Yeah.
sort of knew how to use Publisher and how to print stuff out on my inkjet computer.
Nice.
Uh, um, in any case, 2007, I was fresh out of college with my like framed art history degree, and I didn't know what the heck I was going to do with my life. So I officially joined the campaign. And unlike previous presidential campaigns, which drew their power from staff, consultants, paid canvassers, Obama's campaign capacity came from unpaid local citizens, right? These folks who were like random individuals on the ground who took responsibility for organizing their own neighborhoods, their own blocks, their own little parts and corners of the country. Um, Months and years, in fact, before election day even came, right? And I think what that campaign did so well, and to this day provides lessons for each and every one of us in this room, whether we're nonprofits or activists or anybody trying to mobilize change in the world, is that the campaign built equity from the ground up, right? At a grassroots level. You get people invested early on and give them aid to participate in the way that they want to participate. And this is hard for nonprofits, and we'll talk more about this in a minute. But equip them with the tools to go do their work autonomously,
Yeah.
right? And like leverage that passion and that energy and that heart that they have.
Yeah.
Um, so many lessons there. And so I think one of the things that the Obama campaign did so well was to meld decentralized grassroots organizing, right? And decentralized campaigns is kind of the thing that I talk most about. It's the thing that I do most of my lectures on. I teach a class on it at NYU. It melded this sort of decentralized way of organizing and internet-based enthusiasm, which wasn't a thing before that, right? With the most advanced technology tools and sophisticated data available, right? So after the campaign, we obviously won. When many of my colleagues went to the White House, I went into the social sector because I saw an opportunity for nonprofits, social change makers to be using many of these same tools, not
Yeah.
necessarily even the technology, but just the strategies of decentralized organizing in order to advance their movements. And so that has been effectively my entire career from being a MS publisher designer to kind of sort of helping out with the Obama campaign
Yeah.
to now teaching social good orgs how to build social movements online,
Yeah.
which has been really, really different lately and a fascinating uh, seat to sit in, I guess. But how can we be better organizing people to make deeper and more lasting change? So, as you mentioned, my day job is Giving Tuesday. Perhaps those in the room have heard of it. I'm the digital strategist, right? Which is sort of a weird title. And what that means is that I teach people how to use these digital tools, right? How can we co-opt the internet? How can we use social media for the purpose of increasing generosity in the world?
Yeah.
Um, we're the largest philanthropic movement of all time. We're almost entirely powered by the internet, but really we're powered by people who use the internet, right? This
Yeah.
is people powered grassroots change. And then
And
I moonlight as an adjunct instructor at NYU, where I mentioned I teach digital fundraising and these kind of like decentralized campaigns, which we'll probably end up getting into, but it's this notion where you deploy your biggest supporters to go out and fundraise and push your mission on your behalf.
you know, thank you for saying that last part. We have so many different people on the line today. Some are from big shops, and so we'll get into this a little more later. Some are from big shops where they've got, 10-person teams, 20-person teams doing fundraising and development. But I know we've got some people out there that are from a single person shop, and so we'll keep that in mind and we'll kind of discuss that as we're going along. I want to go back a little bit to the origin stories of learning that you could potentially use an online platform, that platform at that time being Twitter, now called X. Um, you know, what was the thought process that led you to believe that you could create real interactions with people and potentially fundraise? Because this was a not a thing, and you obviously had an openness to it. Was everyone around you open to it too? What was that like? Ding ding ding, we could use it in this way, like, and what worked, what did not work?
That's a big question. Okay, so it wasn't just Twitter, right? Like we had campaign strategies for Facebook, for MySpace. I think Vine was still a thing back then.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Instagram wasn't around yet. TikTok certainly wasn't around yet. But I think he was the first high-profile politician to do like a Reddit AMA. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, and the strategy was to show up in places that people were,
Yeah,
right? And to humanize our candidate. The odds were absolutely not stacked in our favor,
yeah,
right? Like opposite of that.
yeah,
And so we thought that social media could be a good tool to inexpensively, because we had no money at the
yeah,
time, reach masses. And particularly by deploying volunteers to post on their social media pages,
yeah,
organize events, take that kind of ownership and agency that I talked about a minute ago, and get the word out about our candidate in a way that was really novel at the time.
yeah.
And so I think these strategies still largely hold true for nonprofits or anybody trying to affect social change. The platforms are absolutely going to change. I think folks are going to splinter off into their own corners of the internet. But if you build a grassroots movement of people who are out there doing this sort of mobilization work for you, which is what we did with
Mm.
the campaign, then your organization doesn't have to be the one bearing the brunt of these campaigns, whether it's a Giving Tuesday campaign, whether it's almost anything that you're trying to do or fundraise for in your nonprofit, right?
Mhm.
Your work then becomes in community management and organizing work, which I maintain is your actual job. It's not just fundraising. Your job is community organizing. So I urge nonprofits to learn more about that. There's so much to learn about community organizing. Even all of these webinars that we do all the time about fundraising, I think what we actually need to be doing is taking webinars and classes and things about community organizing.
Yeah.
Um, you'd ask me if I needed to get buy-in.
Yeah.
from
Did you need
the
to get buy-in?
powers that
Was
be.
everyone on board?
Frankly, no. I think some volunteer happened to have the good insight, and we were all young, right? I think I was 19 at the time, and most of us were like 19, 20, 25. Were like the elders in our group. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
really, really young, and Barack trusted us in a way that I'm to this day humbled to be a part of, right? I haven't really thought about it in a while, but like TweetDeck didn't exist, right? So we were just kind of like typing our little tweets on twitter.com, I think.
Uh-huh.
Or I think some of us had the original iPhone because when did the iPhone come out? 2007,
Yeah. You're right.
right? So
Yep.
we had like iPhone original and we were all like, this is really cool. Let me tweet something to the biggest Twitter account of all time. And we were like too young to even realize that we should really be overwhelmed by this. Like, if you ask me if I would like to babysit Barack Obama's Twitter account ever again, I will tell you absolutely not. Can you
Right.
imagine like stress? We were all too young to even be stressed about it. So
Yeah.
like, let me type this tweet on my original iPhone. Um, like he had his BlackBerry, so I don't know what he was doing, like typing it on the keyboard. I think my memory's so foggy because it was such a freaking whirlwind, right? I honestly don't know how we did any of this. And
Yeah.
like two-factor wasn't a thing either,
Sure.
right? And
Yeah.
so like what how did we not get our account hacked? I have no idea to this
Yeah.
day, right? And the password was something stupid. It was like Michelle 2007 or like Sasha and Malia 2006 was the
Right.
password. And we would change the password from time to time, but we were like shouting the password to our Twitter account
Across
across the
the,
room, which
yeah.
like we do not live in that world anymore.
I
Um,
don't, I have a question that's popped up in my head. So many of the folks that are on the line, I either know them personally and have talked to them about, do they have agency where they are at their own nonprofit buy-in from the upper management about spending dollars on Google, on Facebook, on whatever to get their message out there? Or, do they work in an environment that's very friendly and open to the idea of putting their message out there digitally? And a lot of times you meet these personalities of an executive director that's like, I'm just not there yet. I don't know that it works. It's not a tried and true fundraising message. And so here's the fun part of my question to you. What was it about Barack Obama that trusted you and your team so much to say, like, what personality trait is there inside that person that goes, this is the biggest thing I've ever done in my life. And I completely trust you to go out there and do it the way you need to do it.
I mean, that's a wonderful question, and I wish I knew the answer to it, right? I mean, it's willingness to have trust, right? And it's a willingness and it's a belief that young people probably know more than you do, which is also really hard, which is another thing. I do presentations on youth engagement often too. And that's another question I get asked, like how do we deploy the youth? You trust them, right? And you bring them to the table and you allow them to come in with their bold ideas and you take a deep breath and be willing to admit that maybe you don't know everything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's hard, right? It's hard for all of us. It's
Yeah.
it's really hard.
Okay. So,
But we all need to be bolder. All of us need to be bolder. We all need to be better about experimenting. And a lot of times the stuff doesn't cost any money,
right.
right? Our experiments with social these days
They don't have to
shouldn't
cost.
really be costing you all that much, right? The content that's going viral on TikTok should not cost you a dime. And if you're spending money on it, there is a major problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Folks really, honest to God, just want you to use the tools in your phone, right?
Yeah.
And film your TikTok in an authentic way. They don't want to see polished professional video anymore. And I think that's across the board,
Yeah. I
right? There
love,
was a moment when we were spending money on our professional TikTok videos. People
yeah.
are over that. They
Yeah.
just want to see you point your camera and do a tour of the animal shelter on your
Yes.
phone on
Yep.
live. That's all they want. They
Yep.
want to see what's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked about that with some of the organizations we work with. Yes, okay, so you're a library, like go behind the scenes and, here's a snippet of like the Dewey Decimal System.
Oh my God, do you follow Milwaukee Public Library's
No, but
accounts?
I
Oh my
should.
God. Everybody in this room, when I leave, go, I'm about to type this into the chat, go follow Milwaukee Public Library. Uh, even if you're not a library, they have some of the best examples I have ever seen. I think this accidentally sent it as a direct message to Jody, who I will ask to repost my comment in the chat, please. They have some of the best content that I have seen.
Right.
It is hysterical. They are using internet culture and memes and co-opting them in a way that makes sense, right? Um, and they're just doing it with their phones. And they're just the young people who work at the library, not even in social media. They'll just be like the person behind the front desk who's doing this as their out of high school after school job, right? Like use the folks at your who work with you.
Yeah.
Have them become content creators, right?
Mm.
Um, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Okay.
So much inspiration.
So okay, I want to go back in time just one more time, and then I want to get to Giving Tuesday. So you mentioned before Obama wins. Um, Different folks go to the White House, different folks go on to other things. When you and I spoke many months ago, I sort of remember you saying you heard about Giving Tuesday in the teeny tiny thing that it was, and you got up the guts to go knock on the door and say, I want to help you with this. Can you walk us through what happened with that?
Yeah. So I was working at my nonprofit association, and I'm going to plug nonprofit associations because I'm a big fan of them. And I hope you're all members of your statewide nonprofit and philanthropic associations because they're terrific. I had been working there and I had gotten that job. That was my immediate job after the campaign. I had knocked on their door. Like literally, I think I knocked on their door. And I was like, hello, there's this thing called social media, and I would like to teach your nonprofit members how to do it. I think that it's going to be advantageous to them, and I think that digital fundraising is going to be a thing. And the faster that we all learn how to use it and how to do it, which is a different rant. You don't do it, but um, right. So I had been working there, and I had been training these nonprofits how to use all of these campaign strategies that we had used at the Obama campaign. And probably September, before Giving Tuesday was supposed to happen, it was like a couple of months, right? Henry and Asha had this idea like, okay, we have Black Friday, Cyber Monday, these two really consumerist ideas, right? We buy all these things that we don't need. What if we had a day that celebrated the opposite of getting stuff? And what if we celebrated giving stuff and things and time and talent and treasures and our intense, driven, common humanity and generosity, right? They
Yeah.
didn't say, oh boy, let me create the biggest crowdfunding day of all time. It consistently is that every single year. That's not what they were trying to do. They said, what if we created a day that uh, would convince more people around the world, particularly here in America, because that's where it started, but we very quickly grew global. We're about to hit 100 nations because all kinds of folks latch onto this idea. What if we train more of our individuals in this world and our friends and family and our networks and more people in the world to subscribe to this notion of radical generosity?
Yeah.
And it's the notion that someone else's suffering should be as intolerable to me as my own suffering. It
Wow.
has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with what can I be doing in my life to affect small change where I live. And if that is waking up in the morning and saying, you know what, my neighbor just had a baby. I'm going to go check in on her and see if she wants me to, I don't watch the kid for a minute while she goes and has a shower because it's really freaking hard being a new mom, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Or some new people moved in down the street. You know what? I'm here at the Costco. I am going to buy an additional batch of muffins
Yeah.
Or what is the thing now? It's two packs of muffin. You have to take the two muffins. And
Yes,
I
you
always
do.
like, I'm a little family, and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to take that second set of muffins to the new folks down the
Right.
street and knock on
Right.
their door and say, welcome to our neighborhood. And it's these small acts of generosity that we maintain are critical to us rebuilding our social structures
Yeah.
and rebuilding civil society in the way that we need it to be. And we think it's absolutely critical to building the world that we
Hmm.
want to live in. So Giving Tuesday is not about charitable fundraising at all. It's how do we build the world that we want to live in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
I love
yeah,
it.
and so it sort of got like co-opted in a way by the nonprofits. I love y'all, but you co-opted Giving Tuesday. And it's fine. It's what I had done, right? I had at my perch at the Nonprofit Membership Association, I had said, you know what, this actually would be a great day for nonprofits to start using some of the digital
Yeah.
tools that they had been learning the past year or so, or however long it had been. And let's all as a cohort learn how to put together a digital fundraising campaign. And that's what we did. So I had called Henry and Asha. I said, hey, I'm Kathleen. I really like your idea. And not only do I want to steal it, but I want to call it something different. I want to create a local campaign for, we wanted to call it I'll Give, the initials for Illinois are IL. So it was I'll Give, like to
Yeah.
Illinois nonprofits and
Yeah.
in other ways throughout the state of Illinois. And I was really nervous because in those times, I was expecting to receive like a no, please don't do that, right? Or things were very like trademarked, right? And I would was expecting a cease and desist order or something, right? But
Yeah.
instead, they didn't do that. Henry and Asha had talk about people who have like foresight and that sort of brain that allows you to think differently.
Yeah.
They had said, you know what, let's just make this open source to where anybody can latch onto this, adapt it. And that's exactly what happened. So I had my little campaign in Chicago. They had connected me to another woman who was running a campaign in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Similar idea. She was running a Love Notes to Baltimore campaign, and they wanted to have everybody in Baltimore go out and write sidewalk messages on their sidewalks to talk about how wonderful and like disrupt the narrative around crime
Yeah.
in Baltimore and all the narratives into that,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
all of these different ways of celebrating generosity. And then country campaigns started coming on, right? So like first Canada and then the UK and then Brazil started calling. And then long story short, I ended up on the team. We had
Mhm.
spun out of the 92nd Street Y, which is where Giving Tuesday was born. We became our own organization, and I had joined as digital strategist, which was like kind of an all-encompassing thing. It was both, hey, can you operate the social media profiles, which has been like my default thing that I do, but it's more about how can we be paying attention to and studying how we can use digital tools to move our mission, which is again nothing to do with charitable fundraising. It's how can we use social media to affect and elicit behavior change amongst
Yeah.
broad swaths of society to become more generous
Yeah.
in their lives and in our world. And so that's our social strategy. I get asked this a lot, like, okay, hey, what is it? Since you're not a nonprofit fundraising day, and we aren't, like, you're not going to see content about nonprofits or helping you with your fundraisers. That's not what it is that we do, right? The
Yeah.
kind of content that you're going to see on our social channels are examples of people being generous.
Yeah.
And it's simple things. It's like the last thing that went absolutely berserk viral, and I hadn't even noticed until like a week later. And it went viral on Facebook, which I thought was strange, right? Because Instagram has started cross-posting
Mhm.
your reels to Facebook unless you tell it otherwise.
Yeah.
I didn't tell it otherwise, and I don't think I realized that it was even doing this until recently. So it did that. The reel was about a woman who rescued an injured bee. And it was a TikTok that I had found and reposted on our own
Yeah.
channels, and people loved it. She had like basically nursed this bee back to health. You can go on my page. It's real recent. If you scroll
Okay.
back a little bit, you'll find it.
Yeah.
And it was very, very sweet and endearing. And people were commenting, and this is another free piece of advice I'm going to give you all. What you want to be doing is creating content that elicits comments because that's what tells the algorithm to start sending your posts to more and more people,
More.
right?
Okay.
And so people were commenting 1,000 comments about how lovely the bee was, and people were asking questions about bees, how long they lived, and then like aviary specialists would reply, and there'd be these really long comment threads about people just genuinely inquiring about bees. And then other people being kind and generous enough to go out of their way to answer those questions. And it was just a really lovely exchange
Yes.
that was refreshing.
Yeah.
Right. And like a little bit like our feeds, especially lately, have been absolutely some of the worst doom and gloom I have ever been a part of in my entire life. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
and so what can we do to bring a little bit of joy back to people, to
Yeah.
bring a little bit of like reminders that as individuals can take action towards things, right? So
Yeah.
that's my advice to nonprofits. That's the kind of content that people are really truly seeking right now. They're not looking for your donation links, and they're not necessarily even looking for evidence of your impact. I think you should always be producing evidence of your impact on your social channels, always. Like that should be your base layer of content.
Yeah.
But can we be doing more with creating reels and TikTok style videos of like reminders of how individuals can take action toward things? And maybe if maybe that's toward your cause, not just examples within your specific nonprofit, but can you take on a thought leadership role in that capacity of how can people take meaningful action toward your cause broadly, no matter where it is that they live?
Yeah.
And I think nonprofits have an enormous opportunity on Instagram Reels and TikTok for that exact reason, right?
Okay.
Because
Mhm.
those algorithms are they tend not to be showing your posts to people who are nearby you
Yeah.
geographically, who
Yeah.
might not be like really tied to your mission or necessarily able to go show up literally at your nonprofit and help you, but they might be really interested in your cause.
Yeah.
So I'm asking nonprofits to think bigger than just their nonprofits and think about how can we all be working together
Hmm.
to bring more folks into all of our causes. Because if I'm seeing, like, I don't even live in Milwaukee, and the Milwaukee library is showing up in my feed, it's relatively nearby. I could take the train up there if I really want to, and I do. But it's inspiring me. It's reminding me about banned books. They
Hmm.
are doing posts about how people can get involved in all libraries, not just their library, right? And does that, I know it does because people are in their comments being like, oh my God, I didn't know about library boards. I'm going to go find out about it and maybe run,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
sorts of things,
Yeah.
right? And people are craving ways that they can participate in our world and help, and it's not all just going to be about giving charitable dollars. It really, I know that pains me as much as it pains you all. And my number one question, and I'm sure it's yours, Christina, is how do we raise more money? I don't think it's going to be about that anymore. And I don't think it can be about that anymore. I think we need to be working harder at deploying resources in a different way,
Okay.
which is
You,
another rant for
that's
another
okay.
time.
You've said quite a few things that are food for thought, and we've got one, two questions. So, question from the audience. There are so many local giving days now, in addition to Giving Tuesday. Should organizations fundraise for all of these, local Giving Day, Giving Tuesday, Public Media
Yeah,
Giving Day? How
all
much?
of them.
All of it. Great.
All of
I
them,
feel the same
every
way.
single one of them, all of
Yeah.
them. Oh my God. Okay, and here's why. Giving days are terrific. The people who run these giving days, they're very humble people, and they probably aren't explaining this to you very well, but here's what they're doing behind the scenes. They're taking money from their organization and budget from their, in my case, I was a nonprofit association, and often they are who are running these campaigns. They're putting up marketing budget on your behalf. So I was running, for example, billboards on the highway, digital billboards that would had an RSS feed to show how much money we were all raising,
Mhm.
right? And these days, maybe I would be putting a QR code, not on the billboard on the highway, but on some other ones, right? In any case, they're putting up ad dollars to help you reach new folks,
Okay.
right? And these are largely mostly free to you to be participating in. So
Yeah.
if all you do is sign up for their giving platform, right, and optimize your page and allow people to fundraise on your behalf because they want to do that
Yeah.
for you, there's some of the best examples out there for how to reach new donors. They really are. There are these moments where people, because they need sort of a sense of urgency to participate in something, right? Specifically if they're donating. If
Yes.
we're talking about charitable dollars, people need a moment and a reason to take action. And that's where we see floods of donations coming in from rage giving, where floods of donations coming in during moments of crisis, like what we're experiencing right now. And then
Mhm.
this third bucket of like invented urgency, which is what the giving days are, right? There are these
Yeah.
moments that we're creating they create this sort of artificial sense of urgency, but bigger than that, they're allowing people to join in the giving case of Giving Tuesday, a global affair,
Yeah.
right? You're allowing people to come in and join in with you from all over the world. Yeah.
Okay.
So I say yes to all of them.
Great.
Sometimes there's a case where there's a giving day in October. And then maybe in November, you don't
Mhm.
want to ask your donors again. So don't. Run your Giving Tuesday campaign in a different way. Do something entirely different. Fundraise for another nonprofit on Giving Tuesday. And really, like, why aren't we blowing it up? Why aren't we showing off all the ways that nonprofits can be generous
Yeah.
in the world, right? Can you use it to mobilize and bring in new volunteers? Can you use it to increase youth participation in your
Yes.
organization? There's
Right.
all kinds of other things that you can do with Giving Tuesday that have nothing to do with fundraising whatsoever. I see a lot of organizations will like collaborate with other nonprofits down the street who do similar work to like work on collaborating and filling a gap that's needed,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Somebody once, it was a couple years ago, I think it was a community garden, a group at a
Mhm.
school, and somebody else who were three organizations, and they wanted to collaborate on a community garden. And so that was their Giving Tuesday campaign.
Mhm.
They had invited neighbors to come out and like, we literally need help building these boxes for our
Yeah.
garden thing.
Yeah.
And that's what people want to do.
Yeah.
People don't necessarily want to just hit that donate button. As much as that pains me, as much as it pains you, we need to be better about giving people active things and active ways to participate in our missions.
Okay.
And I maintain that we need to be creative about it because there are absolutely ways for people to plug into absolutely every single one of our missions,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Um, People really they'll do it. They'll hit the donate button. There is hope yet for digital fundraising and fundraising on social media, absolutely. But we really need to be better about providing other on-ramps and other pathways for
Yeah.
people to get involved. And that's like, again, that's Obama campaign lessons too,
You're
right?
right.
We had developed mybarackobama.com, and it was a website where people could download a list of their neighbors and their phone numbers. This was like pre-data privacy protection stuff, but that's what you could do. You could go on there and find out who your undecided neighbors were, and then you could hit print on a flyer, and then you could go knock on that person's door. We had a script, right?
Lovely.
All of these tools that you
Yeah.
build, and then just equip people to go out on your behalf to go do that for you,
Yeah.
right? And I think we can be doing that for digital fundraising for sure, but we can also be creating other pathways for people to print a flyer for you and help you go get the word out about your mission,
Okay.
right?
Very good.
And participate in a little more active way. People are yearning for this desperately. And we have a unique opportunity as like civic homes for people to be
Yeah.
able to provide that for folks. Yeah.
I'm getting even more questions. Okay. So let's see. Okay. Here is a core question that folks want to know. If you were running a digital strategy campaign now, how would your strategy change from what it was in 2008?
Okay, so it has changed a lot, right? Like we've had to pivot. Every single one of us has had to pivot
Yeah.
many, many, many times through the past decade and a half. God, this has been a long time. Uh, and I anticipate that we are going to have to be able to be agile and pivot even faster
Yeah.
than we have been able. And this is going to be really hard for people. I'm not going to lie, it's going to be really difficult. So in 2008, you remember there was no algorithm.
Yeah.
I would hit publish on a post and it would show that to everyone who followed me. They might not see it, of course, because it was contingent on them
Yep.
actually opening the app and then scrolling that far down.
Yep.
And over time, that was where the algorithms had come in, right? It was like, okay, it's not possible for everyone to see everything. We need to develop some mechanism to parse out what it is that people see,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so we've had to pivot along with these algorithm overlords. And what I'm saying to folks is to like take a step back and really think about why are you continuing to post to your Facebook page or Twitter or whatever it is? If
Mhm.
it's not working for you, just stop doing it,
And what do you do instead?
right? You find out where your people are and where it is they would like to build with you, which is another way of framing this that I don't think enough people think about. Uh, and that might take literally asking them,
Sure.
right? Uh,
So,
I'm also seeing a lot of people want to be building on online channels that are not social media, right?
tell
So
me.
we're seeing a trend toward WhatsApp groups.
Okay.
We've been seeing this globally for a long time, and it is
Yeah.
here in the United States. But if you don't see it yet, it is coming for you. People really enjoy WhatsApp community groups.
Okay. What else?
And
What else are we maybe missing? What other channels are we? What's coming up?
uh, email, I think we still need to be doing.
Yeah.
I think if you haven't already been collecting your email addresses from every single one of your
Sure.
social followers,
Yes.
you needed to be doing that 3 years ago. But if not, you need to start doing that as soon as you get off the phone with me. And that is like the one case that I would ever make for running a Facebook ad campaign. It's to try to capture some of those email addresses
Okay.
because we are truly living in a world where these social media platforms could go poof at any moment, right? Like I'm
Sure.
thinking about all the travesties we've been through with Twitter over the past year, where we've had these moments where like, oh my God, am I going to open this up and it's going to be 404? And like, is that it? Right?
Yes.
And all of my followers are now gone,
Gone.
as well as all of that content that I've produced. So download all of your content, right? There are
Yeah.
mechanisms on every single one of the platforms to download your archive. Download all your archive. Start working on collecting those email addresses. But what you
Mhm.
really want to start collecting is these folks' phone numbers.
Oh,
And now you don't want to be robocalling them and you don't want to be sending like the political campaign,
yeah.
I'm Bernie Sanders, I am once again asking for your financial support kind of messages. We can't be doing that. Okay.
Mhm.
But folks they like text messaging. They like
Yes.
being reached that way. And it's beneficial to you because it's a 100% open rate. And the click-through rates on these things are like 80, 90%. It's ungodly. So if you are not doing work in SMS and direct messaging of people, you need to start doing that.
Yep.
Really, I'm a bigger fan of the WhatsApp group
Love it.
mentality, which is like, can you get volunteers in your organization to start working together to help you advance your mission? And it takes a little bit of hands-off approach,
Yeah.
maybe, right? It takes a little guidance, but if they see something that they want to go work on, you've got to let them go do it, right?
Okay. That's such a great tip. Somebody just wrote in and asked, how should we approach threads?
Threads. Okay. I'm not right now, to be honest with you. I
Cool.
secured my handles.
Yeah.
Which I think you should do on all of these platforms. Secure your handle at the very least so that nobody else snags it.
Yeah.
Um, Relatedly, please do not delete your Twitter accounts. You can deactivate, but don't delete. If you delete your accounts on any of these social media platforms, somebody else can come in and take your handle. And
Okay.
it could be somebody nefarious, right? So
Okay.
for like a branding perspective, you definitely want to make sure at the minimum you um, collect your handle. Threads, I'm struggling with, if I'm being honest.
Sure.
Now, it, it's there aren't a lot of nonprofits on it. I
Mhm.
see folks securing their handles. I'm not seeing too many people do stuff with it
Mhm.
yet. My issue with it is that you can't find anybody. There's no mechanism for like, there's no hashtags, right? Searching for somebody or some sort of topic that I'm interested in doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I'm just relying on this Facebook algorithm, which we hate and don't like, but I have to rely on that to show me this sort of content that it thinks I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. I'm waiting it out. I'm being
Cool.
patient. I'm going in once a week and posting like reminders about Giving Tuesday.
Okay.
I am seeing that my following on Threads are actually not so much nonprofits, they are people,
Mhm.
which I'm grateful for and glad about. So I'm going in once a week and posting like some reminders about how you might participate in Giving Tuesday, reminders of what exactly that this is, so that it's top
Mhm.
of mind for folks. Um, but I'm not there yet
I think
on
that's
many of these
great.
platforms, actually. And I know folks
Yeah.
are looking for clear answers, and I'm not going to be able to give it to you.
I
And
think
I think
that's
it's going to be a
fine.
long time before anybody's ever able to give it to you. The bottom line is you're going to need to go where your people are.
Yeah.
And if you go
Yeah.
where your people are, you're going to be more likely to find people like them,
Yep.
right? And that's where they all will be. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's and some of this might take some like you survey your folks, hopefully. I hope you do, right? And you
Mhm.
likely survey them about like fundraising preferences. Start fundraising them about where it is that they spend their time online and start asking people, right? What's your favorite social media platform? And if they're saying to you, I have not opened Facebook in 3 years, and you're seeing that your posts are going absolutely nowhere, why are we spending time maintaining these pages?
I have to say that I love the idea of saying to an organization, don't try to be everywhere all at once. If Threads is not like just relieve yourself of the
It's
additional
okay.
task of being everywhere at once. I also love the idea that maybe the internet or maybe social media would poof before my kids become teenagers.
Isn't that what we're all praying, right? Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually just going to splinter off in a thousand different directions,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah,
think people, and that is going to be literally impossible for nonprofits to be maintaining presences on those platforms and quality presence on that platform, right? You're going to end up in the position that I'm in right now where I'm not really fostering my threads at all. I'm coming in once a week and making sure there's
yeah,
content populated. And there's going to be a moment where I stop doing that, right?
yeah.
Um, it's okay to focus on one or two platforms and that's it. I'm
Great.
starting to move to one or two platforms and that's it because we cannot possibly be everywhere all at once. But you do want to be thinking outside of social media
Yeah.
and what sort of digital organizing can we do outside of that?
Okay. So with the 10 minutes that we have left, I wanted to ask four things kind of rapid fire. We've got
Go ahead.
two questions from the audience. One, I'll just answer really quickly. It's how exactly can I get the emails out of our Facebook followers? And is it okay to take those emails and add them to our list? You cannot extract or export emails from Facebook, but what you can do is run a campaign asking people to knowingly give their email address to you. And you can contact myself, or I'll just say myself, Kat. I don't want to volunteer
Yeah,
you,
go for it.
but
Yeah, thanks.
myself, and I can tell you more about that. It's Christina at
Yeah, that's
carlton.com.
exactly right. It's I would schedule, and hopefully you are using something to help you schedule your social media once a month, once a week, even a call to action. Here's our email newsletter list. Please make sure you're subscribed, and variations on that message, right? Maybe one week you send them a sample of your newsletter and say, these are the kind of content and these are the kinds of reasons why you would enjoy our email newsletter list. Messages like, we promise we're not going to bombard you. We send a message once a month or once every 2 months or whatever it is, right? Variations on that message to ask people to get subscribed to your newsletter list. And then you can also run ad campaigns with a similar call to action that will be, and you target that to the people who follow your page. And
Yep.
maybe you expand it to people who uh, are like the people who follow your page, possibly, but I think I would just spend it on people who like your page. So,
Okay, very good. Another one is do you, and I'll put this out to there to everybody on the line. If you do and you want to answer this question in the chat or volunteer your email address, please go ahead. Does anyone have a template of a donor survey they would like to share? Yeah, and Kat, do you have one?
do I have one? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, my advice would be to keep it
Okay.
simple as possible. People's attention span is that of a gnat these days,
Yeah.
right? So you'll have to experiment a little bit. Sometimes it might be better for you to send a once a year survey to your folks. Some of your folks might prefer if you send them a one question in your e-newsletter each
Yeah.
week, right? About what their preferences, where is it do they spend time online? What ways would they like to participate in your mission,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
right?
great. That's great.
Would you be interested in joining our junior board or our associate board or our youth board? And hopefully that's something you all are talking about establishing in your
Yeah.
organizations, because I love that idea.
Right.
Um, what
We
are
should.
some ways that you might participate remotely with our organization here? Are you even interested in doing that? And can we contact you if you're interested in
Yeah.
remote volunteer possibilities?
Okay. Oh, another good question just came in. Have you we'll keep this one to like 30 seconds, like maybe even a yes or no. Have you ever used Nextdoor for fundraising?
Okay, I haven't, but I've heard people who have. I would
Okay.
be careful with it because of the culture on Nextdoor. So it would be better if that message comes from a person who knows you and is involved with your campaign and likes you versus you as a nonprofit coming into
Yeah.
Nextdoor and being like, it's Giving Tuesday, here's my fundraising link. The admins are probably going to take your post down if I'm being honest,
Yeah.
but if you are, it also depends on the type of work that you do too, right? If you have somebody who is active in a Nextdoor group
Yeah.
who happens to be and they're known in that group as a person who is great and participates and helps out in the group a lot, and they happen to be running a peer like
Mm-hmm.
fundraiser on your
Mm-hmm.
behalf,
Yeah.
which is the thing that you should be doing on Giving Tuesday, by the way. If you are not doing a peer-to-peer, that's you absolutely need to be doing peer-to-peer on Giving Tuesday. If you have one of those folks, Nextdoor could be a place for them to post their link.
Okay.
They'll know how to position and message it better than you will. They will probably say something like, "Hey, no pressure. I'm just posting this because it's Giving Tuesday, but here's why this organization matters to me. Here's some work that they're doing in our community that I think the rest of this group should really know about. And they happen to be fundraising for this very specific purpose that we're all interested in affecting change on in this group because we talk about it a lot,
Yeah.
right? In sort of a casual manner, right? So I think yes, but I think you cannot be going in there as a brand or as a nonprofit and fundraising in there, but I think you can get people to do that on your behalf for
Okay.
sure. That
Okay.
said, I do think you should be joining your local Nextdoor groups as a participant of the community, right? Not nothing about fundraising, just if in my local group so that you can offer thought leadership about some of the topics that people talk about in Nextdoor groups, right? You inevitably will have something that you can chime in with your expertise and raise your hand. And maybe there's a case where like, hey, we do this work and I just want
Yeah.
to let you know that we exist and we are looking for volunteers, right? this sort of thing.
Okay, that's good. All right, I'm going to wrap it up with one more sort of personal question, also taking us back in time. Uh, if you could go back and tell 2007 Kat one thing, what would it be?
Oh my God, that's a big question. That's a really big
No
question.
pressure.
No pressure. No pressure. I think I would tell myself to have hope,
Hmm.
right? Which is a hard thing for all of us these days. A dear friend of mine and mentor says to me, let this radicalize you rather than lead you to despair. And I feel like I could have used those words 100 years ago, right? Um, and I would urge myself to constantly live in a space and live my life in a way where the space between my actions and my values shrinks to nothing. And we are living in a moment right now that is really, really difficult. And all of us, no matter what cause we work on, is living in utter chaos right now. And I frankly don't anticipate that to go away anytime soon. But we can be the bearers of hope for people who are despairing. And we can use our channels and our megaphones and our mouthpieces to tell people and reassure people and give them action items to help alleviate those fears, right? We're in a really unique position as nonprofits, and it's not just about fundraising. It's about how can we bring people along with us, and they want to be brought along with us. People want desperately to help. And so we are charged with creating pathways for that and building the type of generous world that we all want to live in.
I love it. I really do. Thank you for bringing it home. Kat Murphy-Toms, we've appreciated our time with you today. I think you're probably going to get many people reaching out to you. We've got a couple thank yous coming in.
Uh,
I'm so glad Victoria at Giving Tuesday mentioned you. I hope to see you in the future. We'll let you go. Everyone, we appreciate you being here with us. A recording of this will be sent out afterwards. Have a great day. Thank you.
Giving Tuesday's coming, whether you're ready for it or not. Get on our newsletter list so that you can get our best tips and tricks and strategies. You can reach me on DM at Giving Tuesday on any social channel of your desire, and I will answer you. It might take me some time, but I promise I will answer you. Thank you all for the work that you're doing. It matters more than we can ever know.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you, everyone. Bye.